My name is Bill Haley, and this is for competitive military. The plan is simply to have roughly 50 military corporations competing for the budget of the military budget. So there's a lot to go through on this, but that is the plan. They don't do contracts to get certain capabilities. They have contract or their payment is based off of their percentage of all the overall military capabilities. So 50 of them, which means the average will be 2% of the whole military. So there'll be good competition, and every military corporation can compete for any aspect of the military. So let's go through some of it. So competitive funding based off capabilities. The missions would be authorized by a 70% vote of the diplomats. So the military corporations can't use the military. The only people that can use the military is the commander in chief and the officer corps that goes with them. So the officers and the commander in chief will be done by separate representative body, representatives of the people. So that is a lot of safeguards built in there. I'll go over more of those safeguards in a minute. But the plan is really to have 50 military publicly traded companies, publicly traded corporations, with the sole purpose of providing military capabilities to America. So anybody can buy stock in the military and have voting rights. I would limit that to only Americans, and only the commanders, the commander in chief, the officer corps, will be able to utilize the capabilities. And only when the diplomats say they can, unless it's on American soil, then the commander in chief has original authority to just take care of business, to fight off foreign foes on our American soil, or attacking American interest. And that might be a little bit too broad. American interest as defined by the diplomats. There's a lot to that. Let's keep on going. A military corporation is a publicly traded company whose ownership is done through stocks. I would limit that only to Americans, and they would have voting rights. So the common American citizen, a lot of them in their retirement funds or in their retirement accounts or other places, they can just have stocks in these military corporations, which would be worth trillions of dollars each probably. There would be thousands of private companies contracting with a qualified military corporation, so you are allowed to have subcontractors. So it doesn't have to just be that major military corporation. They can have subcontractors. I would limit to 1% of the overall military capabilities to 10%. So you could have as low as 11 or 12, but I think more likely it's going to be 40 to 50 military corporations. So you have a couple big ones and a lot of them that are right above 1% of military capabilities. There would likely be a percentage of the budget for many areas of capabilities, such as tanks, airplanes, nuclear, ships, infantry, guns, special operations, cyber operations. There's a lot more than that. I just came up with a few on my own. Of course, many of these have subcategories. There's no doubt there will be pages upon pages of major categories and then subcategories and the like. And many of these will have crossover. Obviously, the Navy has airplanes. The Navy's supposed to be in the water. Obviously, are major, but Air Force is separate. So you're going to have a lot of crossover where you're going to have planes in many different areas, and ships and tanks, and there's going to be a lot of crossover. So they're going to have to work all that out, but they can. And there would be a special representative bodies, representatives, other people to determine each military corporation's overall capabilities. What percentage of the overall capabilities does each military corporation have? 3.2%, 5.2, 3%. It can go out as many decimal points as you need to get down to the last dollar. So every additional gun you put out there, every additional weapon you put out there, every additional manpower you put out there will have payment going towards that because it's additional capabilities. But if you do something so foolish to have very unproductive manpower, very unproductive weapons, you do a very weak gun or whatever, yeah, it's not going to be included in the military capabilities because it's not really worth too much to the military. So you can't just do anything you want. they have to determine that it's worthwhile for the military. And the military we have now and looking into the future. So we'll look at that in a second. There would be likely fund capabilities for the now, midterm, and long-term potential. Obviously, aircraft carriers and other battleships, they have 10, 15, 20-year timelines. So when they start getting on the drawing board and making up plans, all the way to laying down the hull and then putting it out to sea, it's a 10, 15, 20-year process just to get it up and going. Then hopefully it lasts 30, 40, 50 years with a lot of maintenance in between. And each military corporation will be in charge of paying for that, and they will be in charge of doing all the maintenance. And hopefully that means money's coming to them for that, because that is capabilities. But again, if they put out a product that is a ship, a tank, that is not useful to the military, and it's not well received, nobody wants to use it, then you're probably not going to get much money for it, if at all. So there will be losses, and that's critical for the free enterprise system to get the best military, is to have losses, people pulling back. You don't get paid for that because you made a bad decision. But on the other side, people are going to be testing out new things, and some things are going to succeed wildly and be very, very worthwhile. Well, right now we get some of that, but it's greatly limited with a military Pentagon procurement center. I didn't say that word right, but anyway, procuring the weapons. So we'll have a lot more free enterprise in that, so a lot more people can try things out, because they will have roughly 50 different buyers for that. So a new startup could have 50 different buyers, and they can sell it to more than one, for sure. Each of the 50 military corporations would compete for the percentage of the budget. There could be totally private companies subcontracting out to startups, but they would be contracting out with an official military corporation that is above the 1% threshold. The safeguards would be significant, probably even more than what we currently have right now. Every person in the full foreign protection system, which is the military, the officer corps, everything, the diplomats, everybody would have to be get approval, get a badge. I like to call it getting a badge, getting that approval to be in the military, to be an officer, be whoever. You need to be approved by representatives of 70% of the American citizens. So you have to really be not going out there on the fringes. And 40% can pull that authorization. So let's say you get that authorization, you meet that 70% threshold, but then you start doing bad things. You can get that authorization pulled. That can be people and weapon systems. There'll be a system to ensure adequate staffing, adequate military staffing, if that 70% threshold starts getting in the way and we determine that we don't have enough. So there will be a system to make sure we do have staffing for that. Okay, I fully understand that the transition would likely be about 10 years, maybe even some things more than that. Each military corporation likely would be set up by the current government, where the government is in charge of all the military corporations. So they split all the government military bases, ships, planes, nuclear, all that, and they start putting those assets into 50 different military corporations. The full government will own all the stocks at that point. They're not one of the ways we can then we can start the process, and then at some point we start selling off at 1% a month all the different stocks. So after 8 years or so, all the stocks will be done will be in the private sector, owned by the American citizens. New board members and CEOs would come in over time. So originally it's just going to be officers, but to be a board member or on the board or a CEO, you still have to be approved by 70% of the representatives. Representatives are 70% of the American people. So you have to be on your best behavior, because 31% can block you. Okay, a lot more at Haley2024.org. Until the next video.